We're working it out, folks. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to like say that I wanted to do it. Hi. Let me let it pop for a sec. All right. So I am streaming and everything's looking good my way. Um, okay. Yeah, I can pop it to stage whenever. You just let me know.
Let's go. All right. First topic for tonight will be given Trump's brain rot. At what point does bullying Trump on Iran become unethical, knowing it could provoke a temper tantrum nuclear strike on Iran? Any starting thoughts, Sophie? Well, people. Oh, also, anyone here can raise their hand, come up and talk about it on stage. But yeah, what do you think, Sophie?
Interesting. I was trying to think about, first of all, thank you so much to Brick, Trav, Paul, Stink.
True.
They came into our Sophie's Subversion School today and gave us the best lesson on cultivating a debate space. And so, because that was just a few hours ago, we have yet
True.
to like implement some of the different suggestions that they had, but please know there's going to be some pretty significant changes coming just thanks to their incredible tutelage. So thank you guys. But
True.
yeah, just to kind of, take their ideas on having a bit of a more of an A B perspective. I'm
Hmm.
actually trying to think about the steel man of this. Like, okay, so if we're worried so much about if we bully Trump, is that just going to provoke him further? Um, I say let's do it. Let's see how far he'll go.
Any nukes of
Let's
the civilization? Dude,
I mean it
those tweets were crazy. Or what? Truths, whatever. Tonight, a civilization is going to end.
I
And I'm like,
mean
what the fuck? Why is he
that
trying to get a Joker?
that hasn't gotten the 25th Amendment,
True.
started. So like what will it take? What will it take? So let's go. Yeah, let's poke the bear. Let's keep poking him. I mean, because honestly, I don't think it really matters anyway. I think we already make fun of him enough. We have a whole No Kings protest situation happening. Like, there's enough in the way of poking the bear already. Like, what more can we do? And what more
Hmm.
can we do that's actually effectuating some sort of change to get his ass the fuck out of here? So like, yeah,
True.
let's keep going. Yeah. Let's provoke his ass. Fuck him. Like, let's get Jimmy Kimmel. We want him to have more airtime. Whatever we can do to just piss him off even more. Cause it might take that. It might take some Hiroshima level bullshit just to get his ass the fuck out of here. I just
True.
don't
True.
I don't know. So that's my steel manning the position. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I genuinely don't, but I feel like I
Yeah, we'll
mean,
be doing
hey.
we'll be doing two 15-minute open discussions. So if anyone has a opinion on the current topic, which I'll read again. Uh, uh, I did not ping debates yet. If someone could do that, but given Trump's brain rot, at what point does bullying Trump on Iran become unethical, knowing it could provoke a temper tantrum nuclear strike? So yeah, first 15 minutes, anyone raise their hands, come up and give their take on the current topic. I'll
Well,
start
what's
when
your take
someone
on the current
joins.
topic? What do you think?
Um, I think it is like it's hard to believe that there's any chance of that would happen. But I do feel like there could be like a 1 to 5%. You just roll in that one, you crit fail. Trump crit fails, and just like says, "Fuck it." I said a civilization is gonna end. Okay, fucking, we're gonna wipe Iran off the goddamn map. And the, it does start to come like to factor in of like if there's a 1 to 5% chance that if we keep like bullying him on this shit, that he will just nuke a whole fucking country. Then I'm like, okay, maybe we should think about what the fuck we're gonna say. But yeah,
I mean,
we'll
I
start.
think this is kind of easy. It's just People made the same argument about Ukraine. I think it just boils down to that. If you think like we shouldn't bully Putin because he might fucking nuke Ukraine, I think your same position would be if you had the position on that, it would be the same as Trump. If you think Trump might nuke somebody because you bully him too much or whatever, then you
Mhm.
probably shouldn't bully him. But I don't think that's a good way to deal with any politician, crazy or not.
Well, what's your take then?
Um, you probably should bully him. Like, I don't think it's good to cow down to like dictators or whatever just because they might do something bad because like that just gives them more incentive to do bad things because then you're gonna be scared of them.
Okay, so like the what's it? The madman theory on politics or some shit like
Yeah,
uh
sure.
okay, okay. So you'd be like against it? Can we get
Yeah,
anyone
pretty
else up
much.
here? Who would be for it? Anyone in the audience would be for it? But yeah,
Like me, yes.
oh, okay.
You
Oh
think
no,
you
say
think
good.
Oh, so you think we should cut on to Trump if he might nuke somebody?
Are
Or
you
let me
no,
better.
I'm saying we should go harder.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah,
But
you two are on the same
I think
side.
I think he's asking if there's anybody that thinks we shouldn't.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess more so the question of like, is there any ethical grounds? Like, if someone was like that fragile that you knew like 100% chance that if you made a joke about this or some shit that they would just nuke it, is there like any ethical consideration or no?
Maybe making a joke of like if you knew 100% that somebody like making a joke was gonna have it, you probably have the ethical obligation to not nuke something, or to not make jokes at him because he might nuke something. But like I think the principle of like giving like actual like any like serious ground up to um to like sustain him, I guess. I don't think that's right.
Okay. Hmm. All right.
Well, maybe
Anyone else
maybe another
in the chat would
question
like to come
to
up?
expand on
Mhm.
this a bit then is like what do we think at what point do we think it will take before even the Republicans can't help but impeach this motherfucker? Like what is it going to take to actually have one of them invoke the 25th Amendment?
I don't know. This fucker has the fucking
I, th-
NRA going against the Republicans, which is crazy for like their take on
I
Alex
I don't
Preddy.
think I don't think it necessarily has to do with any like actual things he does. I think it matters on how much the Republican Party keeps eating itself alive. Like with him losing like Candace Owens and like all those people, I think that hurts a lot. Not even like policy wise, but just like keeping power.
Mm,
Because it doesn't really matter the bad shit he does. It just matters how many people he loses because of it. So like
Okay.
even if something he does isn't bad, but he loses people because of it, that's bad for him at least. It's good
All
for
right.
us, but
How about you, Trib? What's your take?
I think you're all being wildly irresponsible. We know that
Okay.
Trump is a dangerous madman and he has his finger on the nuclear button. He's going to nuke Iran tomorrow if we send the wrong tweet.
Okay, I know you're memeing
We
right
should
now,
all.
but dude, those Sunday tweets were crazy of like a civilization is going to end tonight.
I didn't even read
We're really crazy. There is. I mean, I'd be more worried about tweeting at Hesketh because he has more direct control. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I think Trump has been memed a lot. I think if you start, I think there are definitely dangerous mad people who will respond to things. I think with Trump specifically, there's systems in place to keep him from going completely off the hook.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Okay, wait. Does anyone actually have more info on that? Because my understanding, it's like nuclear football. Whenever the fuck if he presses that, shit goes
Well,
south.
at the end of the
Well,
day,
no, because
the people have to like actually launch the missiles, right? The soldiers
yeah,
have to actually launch the missiles,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
it's like double
uh,
like confirmation, and the generals need to like. There's a whole chain of command that it needs to filter down, and everyone there. They don't have a. I think they'd be violating orders if they stopped it, but they could still physically stop it.
there's a real question if he wants to, could he even get it like through for something
I
like
think.
that?
I think somebody like so. Let's say Afghanistan got a hold of a nuke somehow, right? Let's say they steal one from Pakistan, and the Taliban had a nuke. I think
Okay.
in that case, we should probably not meme at the Taliban too much. They're fucking crazy.
but are we saying then that there's a very real possibility that at some point in the last year or so, Trump has actually pushed that fucking button. We just don't know it because some general somewhere is that why the recent firings, in the Department of Defense or War, excuse me.
I
Like, sorry, guys.
I think
I
I
think
think
we've heard
I
about
think
it.
I think if that happened, we would for sure know. He would have tweeted like these
Would
fucking
we?
generals and
Would
fucking
we
listen
though?
to me.
Oh, true. That's true.
Yeah.
He's that stupid. That's correct.
Dude, the way he's turned on what's it called? All the fuckers. Alex Jones and shit, just saying that they're all like nobodies without him or some shit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um, but yeah, like my understanding, because if you think about it from like a what is it, mutual assured destruction, like a mad theory or some shit,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it should just be a 1-to-1. If he pushes that button, then like a nuke's getting fucking launched. I don't. If someone has more information on that though, of like actually no, there is a system in place that people
Well,
could like push
I
back
know
or
I know
stop it.
there's for sure a system. It also I think it
Hey,
well I
hey,
know that I know
I just want to
oh
clarify the
Yeah,
direct question that was asked.
yeah.
As far as like, so I work with nuclear weapons, and
Oh
I was in
shit.
the
Okay.
Navy.
oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
scary
there
ghost.
is there is a multitude of like there is no such thing as a briefcase that is opened up like in Hollywood, where
Okay.
like there's a red button or you just type in a code and then like missiles launch. There's a multitude of people that it goes through a military structure, of which like a multitude of ranks, including like from general chief of staff all the way down to like the actual lieutenants that like break the card keys open and turn the switch, and everybody has to agree. A good example would be the Cuban Missile Crisis, where there was the political officer and the officer on board, but the ride-along officer did not agree to fire the
Yeah.
nukes,
Yeah.
so they didn't. That is we have a very similar system that the Soviets had set up,
Yeah.
um, where we don't fire nukes unless everybody's in agreement, and at any point in time you can refuse that order, like, and they run those drills all the time, and it's a very complex like system that does not just involve the president saying launch nukes and then nukes launch. There's a lot of checks and balances between that happening and the president ordering it to do to happen before that
Yeah.
actually happens.
I
Well,
guess.
that
Good.
oh.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
go ahead.
gonna say I think that's another reason why like because I feel like this is very similar to like the Ukrainian argument. I feel like even for like Russia, I feel like something like that might not go through as well, and I feel like that's another reason. But like that's kind of a different topic.
Sure, and just to clarify, like why I'm here with the Ukrainian thing, because this is actually the part of the nuclear stuff that I deal with, is a lot of people are like, "Oh, Ukrainians shouldn't have given up their weapons,"
Mhm.
but they didn't actually have the ability to maintain them. And if you
Yeah.
don't, they're actually a detriment to your society and a nuclear disaster waiting to happen, because they do decay, and the daughter products of those decay materials are very dangerous. And if you don't have the scientists to like, they need maintenance and upkeep, and like they would not have had them like 10 years later would have been like a huge problem,
Mm.
with zero people, like, because they were all Moscow scientists that knew
Mhm.
how to like maintain the nuclear weapons and to do the maintenance on them.
Hmm.
I guess
So
like
yeah.
they give like slight pushback. That would be crazy to me because like the whole idea like mad like mutual assured destruction. You're saying that like if I can make it politically or like ethically wrong and like in the minds of the people that like are turning the key and shit, you could basically just shut down the whole like nuclear operation. I feel like there should
Yes.
be like some kind of like safeguards in place that like you're gonna be court-martialed or fucking shot if you don't launch these goddamn nukes.
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
it's usually I think the idea is if somebody had actually nukes, like Los Angeles or New York or something, then everyone up and down the chain would be willing to do it, right?
yeah.
Like
Also, the thing about Matt is not
the
necessarily
situation.
that it's not necessarily that it's going to happen factually. You just have to make your enemy think that it would happen. So, like,
Okay.
necessarily, we could not have nukes, but if Russia thinks we have nukes, then that mad would happen. That would be just as good. It doesn't have. We don't have to have nukes. So if we have nukes and we say that people will do it, but they don't actually, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so
Okay,
like from
I
what
just wanted to come in and talk about like the logistics of how it actually
yeah.
works if you were to
Yeah.
do it. If you have any more questions about that, I'm happy to stay. But if not, like you can talk about the efficacy of like the theoreticalness of it.
Yeah, I'll bring it back to it where it's
I
like,
think
Yeah.
from what
maybe a
Unscary has
better
said, it seems like if Trump was just like crazy madman, whatever the fuck, and pushed the button and said, "Oh, we're going to nuke Iran now," it wouldn't just be like we just do it. There would be multiple people in the way that would could get in the way of it.
Well,
And, like,
as reassuring as that is, and it is, it still flies in the face of the fact that we had an operation that bombed fishing boats out of the sea and double tapped people hanging on for dear life from their, bomb fishing boat. And that
Do
we
we?
had people who willingly, at the behest of Donald Trump, went into Venezuela and kidnapped their president.
Yeah.
And we had a situation recently where a whole fucking war was started with Iran at the behest of one dude. And so, like, yeah, I'm glad that there are more safeguards before we reach such a you know magnitude as nuclear war or
Yeah.
whatever, but we're still at war. People still listen to
Mhm.
him. People are still doing the crazy shit he's asking them to do. So how far-fetched is it that there's enough people in that chain of command, when it comes to that nuclear process that won't say no to him? I mean, I can't say that I'm
Well,
entirely
It's super
concerned.
so
possible.
as
to give
someone,
it more. Yeah.
yeah, if I could just say for a minute, like last spring, I went to a retirement of a very high-profile individual, which I'm not gonna name any names or locations or anything,
Sure.
Damn.
but a lot of people came from DC down for that retirement, um, and I was very, very much reassured that there's enough people in the upper chain of command that are don't know what the fuck the admin's going on. And excuse my language, but uh, that are like, yo, it's business as usual until like this time's out,
Mhm.
and like would not ever follow through with any of these commands. And like a lot of high profile people from DC were there, military people, the people that are like you see in the upper like administration level that are appointed or that are on Fox News or whatever, like are not really the decision makers. I mean, they can send out orders, but like the core group of the people, the like the shakers and movers, are not on board with any of this. And like I'm struggling with a lot right now as my ship is currently speeding across the Atlantic over there right now, the George H.W. Bush.
Oh.
Um, so shout out to all of them.
All right.
Thanks. So to bring it a little bit, I think more to the original spirit of the prompts.
Yeah.
I think immigration is a more relevant thing. Like if we, because Trump
Wait,
is not
what? Go
hitting
ahead.
his immigration targets, right? And in theory, we could be like, Trump said he would be the deporter in chief, and he's still not deporting more people, right?
Yeah.
And I think I think taunting him on that could legitimately hurt more people because he would double down on more, more things like
Home
Minnesota,
Depot
more
raids
surges to
and
cities,
yeah, exactly.
right? So
Pretty true.
maybe
No.
not diving too much into the nuke stuff, but in terms of like for stuff that he said he would do, I think it is credible that like if we keep being like
Okay.
Trump's not doing a good job on immigration, he could
Yeah, I think there's a
double
good
down
angle
and
on
start
it
causing
of like
problems.
Mhm.
if
Hey,
there's
Sophie
a
Retro, thanks. I'm gonna move back to the audience. I
yeah,
just
all
wanted to
good.
clear up
Thanks,
that stuff.
Gary.
Yeah. I think there's a good take on it of if there's other things to like hit Trump on and there's a chance of this fucker. I think just the vague posting that he did of like a civilization is gonna end is just crazy.
I could see that point, but I feel like if you don't hit on those and like I feel like those are like the biggest things to possibly hit on as like policy.
Mhm.
Cuz like
Yeah.
everything he's possibly ran on has failed tremendously. So like I feel like those are the biggest things to attack.
All right. I'll move in. There's like 20 seconds left, but
Sure.
I think I'll move on to the next topic that
Zero
actually stole from
posted
Brick.
the actual tweet. It's,
Oh yeah, this
it's
one.
not very
Jesus.
vague. Yeah.
It'll be-
That's the
Dude,
opposite
see
of
the one
vague.
fucking Republican go on like CNN and being like, do do you agree with the Trump's position that like we should end a civilization or some shit? And he's like, well, you know, he meant the infrastructure and
Wait, is that a
Oh
bridges.
is that
God.
a real truth?
Yep.
Yes.
Did he
Yes.
Wait, have
put
you not seen
praise be?
this?
He put praise be to Allah in a
Yes.
Yes.
fucking.
Yes. That's what I'm
Wait,
saying. Like,
Yes.
based?
I don't know if this guy is like mentally all there. Okay. I mean, I already didn't think he was all mentally all there, but even more so.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've only heard the fucking civilization. What the fuck?
Yeah. He's like the ultimate troll, and it would be incelly or I don't know, black pilled, I guess, if you will, if it was
Uh,
just some random dude. But this is
Fair.
the fucking president of the United
Oh,
States. That's insane
all
to
right.
me. Oh my
There
gosh.
wasn't much traction on that topic, so I'll move on to the next one. If
Sure.
good cycle with these guys. Stole this one from Brick. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brick.
okay.
Topic: should the government prioritize protecting vulnerable groups, even if it limits individual freedoms? And there's a pro and con side. So,
Hmm.
God damn it. Um, but yeah, if you guys could head down to the audience, and we'll cycle some other people up.
Okay.
So the pro is some limits on personal liberty are justified when they prevent serious harm to marginalized communities. The con is that civil liberties lose meaning when the state decides whose freedoms are expendable. Hmm.
Wishcaster, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Or actually, I saw people were trying to get you to come up in regards to the whole nuclear thing.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you
the
wanna
last topic.
did you wanna
You were very
speak on that?
popular.
Yeah.
The funny thing is the dude was an expert. I was actually just listening and hearing him, so I don't necessarily have an opinion one way or the other. I think as it relates to nuclear proliferation, I'm anti that, but to the extent that I understand, anything to do with like how nuclear proliferation works in sort of a practical sense, like what would happen if we fired a bomb, which I believe. I mean, the fact that we even have to have the conversation is kind of stupid, but it just the fact that it could happen. I mean, I think the man said it best. Like it's not like you just push a button and do it. Hopefully, there's some safeguards in place. And I believe the expert said it best. So that's why I wasn't going to come up on that subject.
All right. So what about this topic?
This
Yeah.
one's this one's a little bit more up my alley, um, because some limits on personal liberty are justified when they prevent serious harm to marginalized communities. The con is civil rights lose meaning when the state decides whose freedoms are expendable. I mean, this to me is like this is a setup
Okay.
because
There's a plan.
this
Okay.
is a complete this is a complete setup because some limits on personal liberty, like I'm not an illiberal person. I don't believe like you should illiberally limit people's rights just because you disagree with their opinion on marginalized communities. However, I also don't believe that you should limit the rights of those marginalized communities. And I think I can point to several times in histories when we have done that, and we can go through whatever community you want to go through. And then hold on, the con on this one, this
Mhm.
is where y'all really got me. Civil rights lose meaning when the state decides who freedoms are expendable. But that's literally what the Constitution did. I mean, we literally said these people's rights are expendable. So
Mhm.
we that the con is just the truth. It's what happened. I think the pro is just like, well, how much do you feel like we should engage in the project of going further? Am I making sense, or do I sound crazy?
No, no. That makes sense to me. It's kind of one of those things where technically we have a right to we have a right to bear arms, okay? But that doesn't mean that we have the right to go use them unilaterally or without discretion or outside of self-defense or things like that. So I think it kind of boils down to how one chooses to exercise said right. So, if we're looking at the fact of, okay, there's a right uh to safety, or to um like you have a right to live, you have a right to life, right? But if your
Yeah.
right to free speech, you know, starts to increase my like harm, my level of harm. Maybe you are saying things that are stochastically terrorism or terrorist like, or your free speech is encouraging someone to harm me. Then yeah, that your right needs to be infringed upon, because you're, like you said, you're going
Yeah,
against the
yeah.
Constitution, you're going against the civil laws of our nation, or whatever the case is, or just
Mhm.
common sense. I think like you don't want to kill people. I think a life would trump somebody's
Yeah,
free
yeah.
speech. So when it comes
I'm
to
gonna
rights, I would say there is a hierarchy of rights, and so
yeah,
yeah, somebody's civil right should trump your constitutional right, I think.
I'm gonna throw it over to Royal. What's your
Sister,
take on this?
Yeah,
sorry.
I think it just boils down to what our society's goals are. We seem to in the West believe that there's certain groups of people that we need to take care of. They might be the poor, they might be the disabled, whatever it is. The only way to do that is to take from others and redistribute that. If we believe that that's a good thing to do, then the answer has to be yes, we should infringe on some rights to protect some groups of people. I don't think there's any way to get around it.
Yeah. So Royal, I do think that there is a zero sum way of looking at rights. And I actually have a shirt. It says equal rights for others. It does not mean fewer rights for you. It's not pie. And I do think that there's a way in which it doesn't have to be zero sum in the way that you're describing it, but I do think that you do make a lot of sense when you talked about practicality. To your other point about First Amendment or Second Amendment rights, right? That's those are two great examples of where I just feel like we totally lost the thread because there are limits on free speech. We have we have legalized limits on free speech. Like you can't, do imminent violence against somebody. Like you can't. There are limits on the speech you can actually do,
Yeah, but that's an
and
example of
I
zero
do feel
sum.
like yeah, I do feel like I'm not stealing your rights by taking away the ability for you to not like create an imminent act of violence against somebody else. I'm not stealing your free speech right. What I'm stealing from you
No,
is
you are.
something unlawful. I don't know, Roy. I don't. Maybe you want to add to that.
By saying that people can't say things appropriately, mind you, but by saying they can't say them, you are putting guardrails on their freedoms, and that's fine. We all understand that, like, there's some things that shouldn't be allowed, even if that does infringe on rights. You must accept in a modern world some constraints because there's no way for you to fully express yourself without potentially trampling on somebody else. I can't build a house that is radioactive because it might irradiate those around me. They don't consent to being irradiated, but they also don't want to be irradiated. And they must constrain me because without it, I would be irradiating people.
Well, I think that it just kind of, that's just law. That's the way law works. Like honestly, if somebody were to infringe on your right to life and murder you, then that's literally them giving up their right to freedom. That's literally them giving up their right to vote again. That's all these rights that
Yeah, it
they
was
had are
taken
gone
though.
out
It
the
wasn't
window
them giving it up, it
because
was taken.
because they took your right to life. So there's a balance in it. Again, I think there's a hierarchy of rights. I think that we also have to look at the fact that even if like freedom of speech, like me stifling your freedom of speech because it's infringing on my right to live, I think again there's a hierarchy there. So I would say somebody's right to life is going to rank higher than somebody's right to free speech. But we also can't overlook the fact that even something like freedom of speech is incredibly powerful. Let's look at the fact that uh, Adolf Hitler never killed anybody. Charles
Okay.
Manson never killed
He killed
anybody.
himself.
True. Maybe a
I
dog.
love the person who killed Adolf Hitler. No, but these people never killed anybody. Like, they couldn't really go up for murder, but in actuality, people died because of the ideologies they espoused, the things that they said. And so, there's still very much power in certain rights, even though I think they are lower on the totem pole. But of course, when that's freedom of speech, or when your right to bear arms, or when any of the rights that you are given naturally or by the Constitution start to infringe on, I think those more important rights, and yeah, I agree with you, Royal. Then you're signing up to have certain
Yeah.
of your rights taken away, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's what you're trying to say is like that's how we live in a society.
To get
We
this
live in a
totally back on
society.
track.
Yeah,
One second. One second.
it's a
Hold.
civil.
Hold.
Sorry,
Hold. Hold.
Royal.
Hold.
Go ahead. Yeah, yep.
No, no,
It's
it's
not
me.
just a
Retro.
civil society.
Wait.
All
Wait.
Hold on,
things
hold on,
take
Retro,
Royal,
resources.
hold.
It might be time, it might be otherwise. And so
Hold.
you must
Royal.
necessarily take from others to do what you want to do.
True.
Royal, hold on one
Okay.
second. Go ahead, Retro.
I think we both understand, like, at some point, should the government prioritize protecting vulnerable groups, even if it limits individual freedoms? Obviously, we're going to weigh this up of, like, what freedoms versus, like, what vulnerable groups and all that shit. I think, like, the more interesting thing here is, like, prioritizing. Should, like, the government prioritize, like, protecting people or freedoms? What would you guys say?
A little of both, right?
I'll let you go.
We don't like vulnerable people being left out in the cold, right? Like I said, disabled people, poor people. We think that that's wrong. They almost certainly didn't cause a lot of these instances, and it would be cruel to just let nature take its course. The only way to protect these people is to take from other people, and that's fine. I think we're okay with that when it comes to vulnerable people. The question
Okay.
really is just what makes a vulnerable person.
Okay. Throw it to Wishcaster
Hey,
and then
this is my
Oh.
first time in here. Can I just hop in and talk, or
Yeah.
or is there
Sure.
anything
What's
like
your
this?
take?
I think this is kind of why we all think that in general, yeah, maybe a little in general, that libertarian types are kind of ineffective, yeah,
Okay.
in general, because of how they try to maximize freedom theoretically, but in all practicality, it's always good to have a little limitation on freedom. It's always good. Yeah. There should always be somebody that picks up the trash or helps the little society, and not being able to, like, how to say, the freedom of your fist ends at the tip of my nose. Yeah. So it's kind of like saying, at what point do we want to limit freedom? Like, I always love that I'm in the liberal gun owner subreddit. And in that subreddit, it's almost like when they eat each other, whenever they don't want to look like posers with patches or anything like that.
Mhm.
When at the foundational level, it's always good for, especially in these times today, for us to be able to, have our own little firearms and protect ourselves and learn how to use them. Yeah. But
Mhm.
sometimes the left just feels like it eats itself. Yeah. Instead of, like, kind of supporting itself.
What do you mean when you say they eat themselves? What do you mean when you say that?
Like they say, it's like that one saying where I don't know if Destiny said it one time or if it was someone else, where it was like MAGA and the conservative right. They have such a strong core with Christianity and with their religion that doesn't matter how bad someone might be, as long as they accept, in this kind of thing, like the litmus test, as long as they accept Jesus in their life and accept this kind of benchmark, they're accepted. Doesn't matter if you did terrible things. It doesn't matter if did unspeakable things. At the end of your life, you accepted it. Yeah. But with the left, it's like they say, they find one thing about you that isn't perfect, and they kick you out of the group. So it's a constant undercutting. Yeah. So that's what I
Okay.
mean, where the left eats itself.
Well, conservative bored with debate. Hope you're not too bored to give us your thoughts.
Curious. Yeah. Hello.
No, apologies. Yeah, I believe this is like we're kind of agreeing, and it's kind of easy to agree in like the abstract a little bit. But then maybe if we ask this question of like we should interrogate whether like a positivist position of rights, like is it truly just the case that rights come from the government, the enforcement of the government? Or is it really just like if you have freedom from the government and interference, like how much does that matter? I think that's a part of the fundamental framing of the proposition we're dealing with. Um, so we could say, like, like you want to restrict one group's, like if we're speaking just like very purely abstractly freedoms to protect the freedoms of another, is like how much of that freedom do you restrict? Like how do you go about doing that? Like what are we measuring? What are we evaluating? And are we truly protecting, reaching that end goal, what we mean to protect? Or have we just violated something sacred for no real reason?
Wishcaster, looks like you have some response to that. Go for it.
Listen, I should have been writing notes at this point because like I missed there was a lot that happened in the course of this, but I'll do my best. To respond to that last point, I think we already have a system in place for how we measure the rights of people versus the law. I think Sophie, I think you made a great point, which was like we have laws already set up. So like if like for example, I just pull a gun and then shoot somebody or whatever, whatever happens, I broke a law. That is different in kind than whether or not you're restricting my right to carry the gun. So I totally agree there. I think you were spot on that point. What we're talking about is marginalized population. So I thought what we were getting to there was like what is the balancing or what is the equity of the right? I personally do not think that um, we should necessarily change the way we look at our entire framework to balance that equity. But I do think that there's a way in which that equity is on balance. And I think those are two separate things. So like
Okay.
if Supreme Court says in Dred Scott, they say that like slavery is legal and black people shouldn't be slaves. Or black people should be slaves and they should never be citizens. Then yes, we can agree with that. Now the system corrected itself. We then had birthright citizenship through the 14th Amendment. I do think that there was a process there that happened that ended up making it better. What I
Yeah.
kind of struggle with is I don't think we should just like infirm people's rights because some marginalized population feels some type of way about the rights. Like um without like trying to get too aggressive on it, I just think like if you want to
Get
make
aggressive.
jokes,
Get
like
aggressive,
if you're
Wish.
Dave Chappelle, yeah, if you want to make jokes about like for example trans people who are my brothers and sisters, I love them, but if you want to make jokes about them, then make jokes. Like I shouldn't restrict or limit you on that. It's just the understanding that that
Yeah.
marginalized community, if you don't have a heart for them, then that's your problem. I don't think the
All right.
government needs to come in and handle that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 1 second for housekeeping things. Hey, Brick, how you doing? I don't know if
Hey, how
you're.
are you? No,
I
I
don't know if
just
you're.
no, I
Do you
kind
have a?
of I raised my hand because I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to
Okay.
be
Okay.
polite. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
Go
wanted
through.
to.
1 second. 1 second.
Yeah,
So we're going to do another 15 more minutes and then do another topic because it seems like this one's getting some traction. But yeah, start on this next 15 minutes. But yeah, go for it, Brick.
yeah. So I think what's an interesting like angle to take this from is that it's the government protecting these rights is kind of what the prompt indicates,
Mhm.
and that whatever government is currently in power can dictate what they perceive as a vulnerable group. You could take like the Roe v. Wade thing being shot down as the now Republican government trying to prioritize protecting, you know, the vulnerable group of babies by limiting people's rights to abortion.
Yeah.
So I think that we should expand, like we should try to expand upon that, maybe less about like all the rights that we typically agree on, and
Okay.
see if we
I'm gonna
can.
actually. I'll throw it over
Yeah.
to Aaron, Aaron, and then if
Hey,
anyone has
Aaron.
any,
Howdy,
if
howdy.
anyone has any takes to what Brick just said or Aaron, Aaron,
Well,
they can
Yeah,
I
sure.
want to say hi,
go for it.
Aaron, because he's a new digital ground game member.
Oh,
So
hello.
just
Hello.
shouting it out too, by the way, anybody here who wants to join us on our little server, we are a political action server. We're an arm of Destiny that takes the talk and puts it into action. So be sure to go follow us as well. But yeah, go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Sure,
Yeah.
no problem. I did want to comment a little bit on the Roe v. Wade issues, as well as comment a little on the trans issues. So, as far as Roe v. Wade, I understand why it was eventually done, why the Republicans did want to shoot it down from where it was, because it was largely an overstep of the Supreme Court, because it was not a constitutional, it wasn't a constitutional enshrined abortion laws, which is something that I would advocate for, where we eventually do get around to enshrining 12 to 14 weeks as a cutoff for abortions eventually. But otherwise, until it actually is enshrined in the Constitution, it should generally be state to state. And the Supreme Court, like having Roe v. Wade as case law, was an overstep of its boundaries. So it did eventually have to die because it just was not a part of the function
All right.
as
And your second
as
point?
how the government functions. As far as trans people, like as restrictions of free speech goes, I generally am sympathetic to wanting to restrict certain levels of free speech because some things aren't uh, just aren't conductive to a working liberal society like CSAM. Obviously, those are things that we have to restrict because we should not be allowing the abuse of minors to be produced and spread and distributed because that's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
And so while I don't think we should restrict people from being able to have opinions on trans people, we absolutely should not allow them to harass trans people for existing. So that's something we already have as a function in liberal society. You have the right to associate. You have the right to feel whatever you want about certain people. You just don't have the right to harass them and like actually try to cause harm to them.
That
All right.
makes
Anyone
sense.
on the panel have a take on what Brick or Aaron said?
Well, I think
I
that
have
Yeah.
one about the topic,
Okay.
like at hand. So, like states have this open negotiation with minority populations, right? The open negotiation is extension of rights and protections, right? In exchange for like loyalty to that state apparatus, right?
Okay.
So, if you like a great example of this would be like the Native Americans, right? A lot of the basis of the continuations of the treaties today in the United States is based around the state's ability to convey with these populations and give them certain types of political rights, certain types of political protections and assurances, right? And in turn, they receive the loyalty of the United States. A big part, like something that a lot of people don't know, is a big part of what drove the Civil Rights Act was security consideration, right? If you read the memoirs of many people working in the Lyndon B. Johnson administration when they're trying to push through the Civil Rights Act, one of the biggest drives for the push and to allow for the desecration and destruction of Jim Crow was security considerations because American security figures were really afraid of a revolution happening in the American South with the local black population, right? There is this thing that exists within our society, and a lot of liberal ideology kind of forgets about it, right? It really forgets about how if we are
Can
all
you
to live
can you bring it
amongst,
home? I'll give
yeah,
you 30 seconds to bring it
yeah,
back.
of course. If we are all to live amongst each other, right? We have to have certain types of negotiations where we actually permit certain types of activities and those people that exist there, and like getting rid of like groups that want to try to overthrow all of it. So that could be like groups that this is the last part. Groups that
Yeah.
can, for example, want to be like independent, right? So like you have like separatist groups, or in turn groups that want to like go
I'll
at
give you 10
the
more seconds.
societal fabric of the nation, like white supremacy organizations and stuff like that.
All right. Honest Paul, living up to his name, being very honest.
True.
Anyone on the panel have a take on what he said?
Well, I just wanted to kinda even speak on what Brick was saying, and
Okay.
it probably feeds into what Paul and Aaron were saying a little bit, just that I think the whole question really boils down to, um, who does the current administration view as marginalized? And so I
True.
feel like, back in, a couple 100 years ago, the marginalized group was the wealthy white landowning men, they felt like they were the ones who, saw the working class white folks getting together with the black folks and said, "No, we can't have that." So, they put all the laws in place to, solidify their position. And then, civil rights came into being. Um, then it started to be clear that the real marginalized groups in our society were black people, were former slaves, were Native Americans. And then as we move through time, we start to see that marginalized groups included women and then included disabled people. And so now it's just unfortunate that we're in a group, we're under an administration now who feels like, once again, they think the marginalized group is rich white men. And so that's why we have a rollback on DEI protections. That's why we have
So
this,
I kind of want to touch on that.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
with the onset of intersectionality, a lot of times it feels like almost everybody is the marginalized group. And at
True.
that
We're all
point, where
marginal.
yeah, where at some point, if everyone's the marginalized group, nobody actually is. So we
I'm
have to
down, Jordan
understand there,
Peterson.
we're at some point we do have some marginalizations that are privy to ourselves, but we have to understand that we can't just restrict other people's rights just because we feel marginalized. And I feel like that's probably something that more touches on trans right activists rather than most other issues, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, give me an example. Like, what do you mean? Like, how does the intersectionality lead to too much marginalization?
It becomes just oppression Olympics, where a lot of people will just try to put together a bunch of different things and even weaponize psychiatric language to try to say, "Oh, I am marginalized, therefore I should make this function of the government change because I feel marginalized." And a lot of it is, I think, an overstatement of their actual issues.
I feel you, but I actually think that's what they use. And like, Mark Wayne Mullen is apparently a Native American. And so he latches on to what he feels is a marginalized group, that he can suddenly be a part of. So I get what you're saying, but I actually think that's
I'm
more
not
of
saying
a
I'm not saying
weapon.
there's not yeah, I'm not saying that there's not marginalization. I think there is an overstatement of some marginalization, and a lot of that has been brought on by intersectionality and how it's kind of power crept its way throughout institutions.
Well, I'm gonna
Power
let
crept a little
Free
bit.
talk because I think he's got
Yeah.
something to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, go
See
for it.
what's your take.
Yeah, I'm not convinced with that particular argument. I think we just appropriated the term marginalized group to the people who were making the rules. Like, I don't think white landowning men have ever been like truly marginalized in
Of
this
course
country.
they
They just
haven't. Of course they haven't, but they think
oh,
that's what they
Yeah,
I
think
know,
they
I
are.
know, right, right. But so when you
there's
describe
a
it that
strong
way,
argument for that.
when they describe it that way, it gives the veil that, well, this is the thing that's the issue. This intersectionality, and now everybody becomes marginalized. Well, no, it's just like this particular group of people saw that there's benefit in feigning that to say that, hey, we're the ones that are truly in danger, and therefore we ought be able to receive whatever benefit from the government and our society,
Mhm.
right? But I don't think it speaks truly to intersectionality, or like I said, I don't think they're even truly marginalized. When you're talking about marginalized people, I think we're talking people who don't have those voices, people who don't have the representation, people who can't make moves within the society, within the government, right?
Yeah,
Okay, right. And if that's the case, right, then I don't know how we tied it to the
The prompt.
intersectionality piece,
Gotcha.
Aaron.
I can make an argument that maybe kind of ties in with Aaron, even though I'm coming from a different type of perspective.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I would say it's couched. All this is couched in a positivist approach to like certain rights that maybe the government isn't competent enough to be very hands-on with to begin with. It's like when you have this intersectionality of like even within feminist movements famously is like the intersectionality of being a black feminist or a trans feminist, so on and so forth. It becomes like very fractious, and it does become like a hierarchy thing. Um, and when you get the government to try and resolve these hierarchy disputes, it can just get more messy. Um, I'd say like the biggest thing I'd say is like that I think it's hard for us to grapple with is like this whole Israel enforcement of like how this government is choosing to approach of how they it's even controversial to try and bring up, but like the hate speech towards Israel is like when or hate anti-Semitism. I don't want to use, but that's the proper word. Like when we expand this word to be just like against the Israel government, and we say like, hey, because this is a marginalized community, we're about to like bring down the hammer of the law, then it shows that having the government involved in these issues isn't always good, is what I'd argue. Like versus just having natural rights, having the public domain sort itself out. And then if it's something criminal, then the government has more room to step in.
Interesting.
Of course, that's kind of my argument, the naturalist position.
Interesting. I get what you're saying as far as and I think that's what Aaron is trying to get at as far as people latching on to marginal. Somebody put an intersectionality wheel. But people latching on to um the 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 actual marginalized group just to receive the benefits by proxy of said marginalized group. And not to say that like Jews aren't marginalized by any means. Like I get what you're saying and that how that can be dangerous, but I think it just speaks to what I said earlier. Like that just means that our current administration feels that to call or I don't think they genuinely feel that there's rampant anti-Semitism out there, but they are doing that thing where they feel like, okay, Israel Israelis and Jewish people kind of one and the same. So we're going to consider them part of the marginalized class because this is who we give a fuck about. So we're going to arrest, Ramesa Ozturk and anybody who's like speaking ill against, Jews or Israel in the name of protecting Jewish people, from anti-Semitism. We're gonna harass, college universities and whatever the case, just to protect Jews from anti-Semitism. When in reality, yeah, it's just them latching on to the fact that like Jews and Israel are now a part of their in group. That's part of the people that they feel are marginalized. And I don't think they ever
So,
really feel it, but this is who they're claiming is marginalized so that they can then, basically overstep and you
yeah.
know
No, I get.
Sophia,
Yeah.
I feel like, hold on, if I can just be a little bit more radical than you,
okay.
because
True.
Boy.
I'm gonna just go ahead and say that I feel like this is being disingenuous. If you wanna do the Suffer Olympics, this is sometimes what people will engage in to say like, oh well, we suffered more than you suffered more than we suffered, so therefore, which suffering is suffering in my opinion, but like I just don't like it when people try to leverage that angle
Mhm.
to try to be like, well, is your suffering worse than my suffering? We were in the Holocaust. You guys had slavery. What does it mean? What like, and I feel a little bit like I'm hearing hints of that in this conversation
Mm.
where it really bothers me when people do that because and I could be wrong, I could be placing bad faith on something, but I just it's like I hear it and it's like, okay, wait, hold on, are you telling me that like, so basically we all get to say that suffering happens in the world and so therefore the way that I should approach this issue is just being like, let me worry about mine and me, and then fuck everybody else. Excuse my language. I feel like kind of that's where Aaron is going with it.
That kind of
If
is
I
because it
heard him
doesn't.
correctly.
Yeah, because it's not just like unique to the left. We're like you said, we're seeing it also on the right with the anti-Semitism, where even just the slightest bit of pushback against the current Israeli government is seen as anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism.
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah, but I don't buy that. I don't buy
One
that.
second,
By the way,
one
I
second.
don't buy that. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna throw up another 5 more minutes, and actually to get Ulysses, he got in here late, so I'll give 5 more minutes. Ulysses, what's your take?
Sure. Can you pass me the question just one more time, just so that I'm up to speed?
I'll have to double check.
Well,
if he still
we
needs to
moved a
prepare,
bit we
I
moved a
did
bit
like
away.
if he's still gonna look over the prompt, I wanted to touch on both of that. I mean, like when we get into this, I'm always gonna feed back into my side of the argument naturally. Is like we're basically saying like this is how people are because we say it's happening on the left and the right with the anti-Semitism, label. So if we like, and I would point out like when we give this power over to human nature, it probably causes more problems than it solves. And I mean, it seems like Witchcaster was like lessening what Aaron was saying about the intersectionality, but it's like when Sophie she touched on it because it's like you have this necessary hierarchical ranking and then this enforcement of hierarchy by the state when it has to weigh in on these things. Because what if I say like we brought it up, but it's not explicitly like this yet, but we could say it's like implicitly kind of this, like unsaid. It's like, what if I'm like, all right, to protect all the Jews, I need to deport the Palestinians. Like, let me make sure all these controversial Palestinians, I can tell they're anti-Semitic because they don't support Israel. To make sure the Jews are safe above the Palestinians, I need to deport these guys.
I threw it in the side chat. It's should the government prioritize protecting vulnerable groups even if it limits individual freedoms? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it becomes a hierarchy of like who's vulnerable. It's still the oppression Olympics is what I'm adding.
I think we should balance the two, but I think the part of the scale should be more towards protecting individual freedoms rather than prioritizing a sense of cosmic justice.
How about Ulysses? What's your take?
Yeah, I'd probably say something along the lines of I think when it comes to prioritizing like vulnerable groups, this is just gonna like trigger the ever living fuck out of me because it's like because sooner or later it's going to like some minorities will actually clash against other minorities, and that's how you get like the trans sports debate issue of like, oh well, trans people want to get into sports, but at the same time like women also, the reason why women had like sport like segregated categories was because of the fact of men like being really like having a maximum amount of testosterone and being able to outperform women in almost every way outside of like maybe like long distance running. So it's like there's like this I would probably say balance the two, work more towards the freedoms because if you just focus on just the minority thing, like I think like I'm basically repeating what everybody's saying. It's just a President Olympics and it's just dumb and retarded.
True. Yeah, 2 minutes left, so everyone give their like closing thoughts. And
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I love you, Ulysses, but I think that's a little disingenuous because I don't think we've at all, and I know you're just coming in too, so let me give you that. But I don't think we have at
shots
all,
fired.
relegated this to a minority issue or even a race issue. Like, I feel like this whole time we've been talking about marginalized groups, how we define that. And I mean, that includes women, that includes disabled people, that includes trans people, that includes LGBTQ. So there's literally, like I think there's a lot in our history that speaks to the fact that the most marginalized groups will always have an intersectionality of Blackness, but at the same time, I think the conversation goes so much further than that. Um, so I get what you're saying, but I think that's a little narrow.
Yeah. Well, I agree that specifically white rich landowners, specifically as a category, are like the least marginalized group.
Yeah.
Like little to no marginalization. But I think we lose the forest for the trees when we forget that there are many groups of white people that are marginalized. Like
Yeah.
in history, like when you have so many like different races of white people that are slaves. We literally developed a word for them because of the Slavs.
No,
30
Yeah.
seconds.
that's not.
Closing
Oh,
thoughts, anyone?
oh yeah, that was
Disconnecting.
that.
Go for
That,
it.
No,
that,
bruh,
that got
like
wild. You were going.
Yeah, you're
It was
had us in the
cooking, man.
first
I'm
half,
like,
bro.
what the fuck just happened? Oh my god.
Correct.
no.
We understand historically that there are a lot of different people that are marginalized. Like we look at the lower class white people in the South. A lot of them couldn't find jobs because the plantation barons were more interested in the economic model that they had to put them on top by having slavery in place.
Right. That's it for this
Okay.
topic.
All
But
right.
I'll be sure to. This is that got interesting at the end. All right, let's go.
Okay. Maybe that needs to be another debate topic of like
True.
the marginalized whites.
True. I
In
mean,
fact,
they are a minority in some sense. Okay, we're all a minority unless you're unless you're a twin. Like no one has the same DNA code as you. Okay, you're your own unique individual. Okay.
right. It's funny because
Alright.
during the Destiny Constantine Kissen debate, um, one of Constantine's arguments against immigration was that oh well, all these people coming in, they change the landscape of the nation and the culture of the nation. And then he was talking about how like if you're looking at these minorities and these oppressed minorities, and you're trying to make concessions for the oppressed minorities, then what stops the white people, the majorities, from coming in and saying, "Oh, if we're giving concessions, we're giving jobs, we're giving money and benefits to the oppressed minority, then don't you think the oppressed majority is going to feel like, well, shouldn't we get this too?" Like this motherfucker literally said oppressed majority. Like, so
Yeah.
I just
All
thought that
right.
was insane.
People can head back to the audience. Our next topic. I threw it up, but I'll throw it up again. How should we interface with other political orgs further left than us, like Progressive Victory?
Yes. Well, before we jump in, and
Yeah.
while Ulysses is still up, Ulysses, you want to shout out what you were talking about with the California
Sure, we'll do a little ad break.
stuff? Yeah.
People currently
Sure.
speaking. Head back to audience.
Yeah, lovely. So basically speaking, I'm part of Digital Ground Game as well. Jesus Christ, I almost said Progressive Victory
Take a sec.
because you said it last.
True.
So no, but I'm part of Digital Ground Game. We have been working so hard. One of the things that we've done is we did the big ass fundraiser on Friday, and we raised over $250,000, and it's still going. So
True.
one of the things that we're looking at is, while it's really good that we did fundraise a metric fuck ton of money, we need to show organizations, especially if we want like funders, that we are just as active as we are successfully capable to fund. So one of the things we're going to do is tomorrow, there is a California Get Out the Vote measure, which was Prop 50 that was passed, and now we're trying to get people out to vote. And what we're doing is we're phone banking. So like on tomorrow, Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, there's a mobilize.us link that can get you to I think it's the California Dems. Those people are hosting a phone banking thing. And we're just trying to get people out to vote, because when they did redistrict those new districts, a lot of people might not have known that, and they need to be informed, because canvassing, like it or not, only really works around like cities and like small towns. We need to work to get the people that are also liberal out in the boonies, out in the rural areas, to get out to vote as well, because that's what will allow us to be able to pick up those 5 seats as Democrats, and not just say, oh, we gerrymandered it and it's a surefire win. We can't do that. So please do join us on Digital Ground Game. Please join us for our phone banking with the California Dems, and let's actually effectuate change. Like we don't actually have any power unless we actually take the chance to do it. That's why Sophie and I, we work through like the Digital Dispatch. That's why we have like debate nights. We try and get people like camaraderie is fun. But if you joined Digital Ground Game, it is one thing to join it and just go for the camaraderie, but here is where you can actually put your effort where it matters. So
Yep.
join us tomorrow. It's 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central Standard, 4 East Coast, and so
How
on
time
and so on.
works. Yes. True.
Basically, true. But yeah, please do join us. We would love to have you.
All right. Going off the topic. Anyone can raise their hands for the next topic, but I don't know if Sophie's gone.
I'm here.
How should we interface with other political orgs further left than us, like Progressive Victory? You had some feelings on this, Sophie?
I do. Well, what's funny is let me explain the sitch. Okay. Like I'm newish to the whole Destiny sphere or whatever. I've
True.
only
Yeah.
really known of this person for maybe a couple years now, a little over a year and a half. And so I don't know, I don't know the Vosh lore and I don't know
Some
all
lore.
this, the lore. I don't know too much of the lore.
Lots of fighting with tankies, true.
A lot of fighting with Jinkies and a lot of, sex stuff. All right, cool. Okay. But still, there's this whole other faction of, people trying to, go from this online debate space into doing real shit and like phone banking and canvassing. And so that effort, to my knowledge, it was first really like instituted through a collaboration with Destiny and Progressive Victory. And Progressive Victory is a organization that's, I guess helps organize phone banking and canvassing and door knocking and things like that. And so apparently they just kept going lefter and lefter and lefter. I don't know if that's an actual adjective, but still that's what they kept doing to the point where a lot of the org they live up to their name, apparently. Progressive Victory, they only really push for progressive candidates. They're very much like Hassan stands. If you're not going to be promoting a progressive candidate, fuck you. I don't think they were really talking or trying to promote Kamala Harris even that much. I don't know, this is my impression. Okay, so turns out they actually had a big like fundraiser with I'm guessing like Hassan and some other people were on a panel to try and raise money. And so they raised about $35,000. This was a couple of weeks ago. And so here comes Digital Ground Game, which is now this, Democratic, pro-liberal group that I guess is butting heads a bit with PV. And so, there's been a lot of shit talking, a lot of smack talking, and
Yeah.
then we
I
go
mean,
and we
mm,
fucking raised
to $250,000. Okay.
$250,000,
True.
yesterday. And so, the way that I guess the leadership in Progressive Victory was saying is like, oh, they just had like a whole fundraiser to spite us, like a spite
Well, if there's one
fundraiser.
thing this community can do, we can do spite, okay?
Right. So I
That's one
just
of
thought
we
it
can
was
all get behind.
insane. So now apparently they're trying to like extend olive branches and shit. Um and so I guess just going back to the prompt then, like should we as pro-liberal people and as an org specifically engage with other
Yeah.
orgs who are,
And
really only
yeah,
promoting strictly far left or progressive candidates?
to give a little background, I was part of PV for 2024.
Oh,
I was part of the housing program in Ohio and shit, and so
well,
PV, we're in the
speak up
walls. Like I
because
know.
I don't know these motherfuckers. You gotta
Yeah.
school
But
me,
yeah,
son.
if you have any questions about them and shit, I would say for the most part, dude, for me, it kind of felt like PV was kind of like like two kids in a trench coat trying to get into a movie or some shit. It was just like DGG into the skies or some shit. So most of the people doing the groundwork of like door knocking and all that shit was mostly like DG people. There was someone in my house that was from Vosh, but like we were all chilling and shit. I would say like they've cozied up more with Hassan, especially after he like doxed all the people that worked with PV of like, oh yeah, all that shit. So yeah,
Mm.
some bad blood, I'd say. But Ulysses, did you have some take on this?
You're muted, babe.
You are muted.
Lovely. Sorry, I'm also playing a video game at the same time. Okay,
Oh
so
my god, why would you do that?
Always. Stop it.
well, listen. Okay, I have to enjoy myself. Okay, but no, I think one of the if PV wasn't so like, I could probably look past Hassan if they weren't so like vitriolic towards like the liberals. And unironically, Hassan sadly is like the embodiment of everything like hating of liberals. But it's like the one thing that really pissed me off is like as somebody from like the Midwest, and they were going for like to get Kat Abu-Ghazaleh elected, and then once she lost, their literal response was, "Chicago is the gives us another reason why it is known as America's most forgotten city." And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, calm the fuck down, get the fuck off your fucking soapbox, and like support the liberal candidate for God fucking sakes. Otherwise, I mean, if you want to support the conservative, go for it. But like, accept that that you lost with pride and dignity. Like if Graham Plattner wins in Maine, I'll be like, you know what? Fuck it. Why not? I will canvass for this person because like, whether I like it or not, it's not a conservative and it's not like a mega sort of person. So it's just very
Yeah.
irritating
And
to see people that are just very antagonistic when they lose.
and yeah, anyone in the audience can come on up as well. I would say like one thing that has happened recently is I think it was in reply to like how they want to interface with like the DNC or some shit. Like Progressive Victory, they're like Twitter was like overthrow them. They wanted to like overthrow the DNC, which was fucking
Right.
crazy.
Right.
But yeah, I think Wishcaster wants to get up. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
And I
see
saw
if
that tweet. They were even saying something like, "Oh, um, if these other Democratic people weren't running, then our person would Cat, what's her face, would have won." So like just shitting on Democrats all day.
Mhm.
That seems to be their
Aaron.
MO.
Man, what's your take, Aaron?
Hi.
We should probably
Welcome back.
limit our engagement. Thanks for having me back.
Mhm.
I think we probably have to generally limit our engagement with further left institutions like PV because like what was mentioned earlier, Hassan or like I said in the side chat, Hassan and his ilk, they're not interested in American values or democracy
Right,
or
right.
like the progression of liberalism. They're interested in their socialist policies and only their progressive candidates. And a lot of times with these progressive candidates, we're not winning with that because they're not connecting with the American people, especially moderates. We're scaring the hose away, so to speak. Forget my
Don't
French,
save
but it
them,
is.
Aaron.
True. All right.
But unfortunately, they're just not helping us. They're not here. They're not here for us. So why should we let them into our tent? They're just gonna cut the tent and cut our throats. Honestly.
True. Wishcaster, what's your take? Any disagreements? Who's good?
I actually not make because I fucking hate these people, but one of the
What a great
things that I
start.
think, yeah, when I say I hate them, I mean I love them as brothers and sisters, but I hate them generally speaking because the only thing they seem to let them form their mouths to say is how bad Democrats are. And I really wish I could just convince them, like, keep pushing, keep shooting your shot. But please just tell everybody, vote for blue no matter who. I'm one of those type of people. Now, as far as engaging with them, I feel like one of the issues that we end up when we go down this rabbit hole, one of the issues we end up saying is like, well, should we create this big tent or this small tent? But I do think there's a way in which maybe, and I've kind of been theorizing about this,
Mhm.
where we create a message that speaks to them, but also does not. They know blue no matter who. So the message would be something like, let's say on universal health care, every Democrat in the country, even in red districts or purple districts, could talk about the fact that they believe that healthcare for everyone is super important. That the belief in the fact that people need to live and be good. There's like, as far as healthcare is concerned, we need to do that. Things like crime. We all agree nobody wants to be the victim of a crime. So just say, I want to be a victim of a crime. we all agree that like I don't necessarily want to go to war. I don't want my son going to war. I don't want anybody going to war. So we can all agree on these things. So to the extent that they're willing to come into the project and engage, I, I think the message, they just have to be on the message with us. And then once they do that, blue no matter who. That's all I want.
True.
In agreement with you that I'm going to fight for progressive healthcare. I'm going to fight for not killing or genociding people, whatever you want me to call it. I'm going to fight for, we shouldn't get into foreign wars we can't win.
Hmm.
I'm gonna fight for marginalized people, like we were just talking about. To the extent that we can agree on all of these things,
Mm.
then just tell me you're gonna say blue no matter who. That would be my point.
Yeah. And I think my problem is that with a lot of these people, they aren't going to. They just want their progressive policies. And a lot of times they're just going to hide behind like the progressive policies that we actually do agree with and to hide all of the other stuff like with Hassan. He's basically just a terrorist sympathizer and I want nothing to do with that because that's toxic to our base.
Hmm.
Okay, see, this is where I kind of disagree with you on that one.
Go for
Like,
it.
because I get Destiny hates Hassan, and quietly, I don't like him. I don't like him that much either. But that's
Yeah,
probably because
fuck
I've been
Hassan.
indoctrinated. Yeah, yeah. I've probably been indoctrinated by my multiple hours of watching Destiny talk shit about him. But that being said, I will say, like, for example, I don't believe he would tell you he's a terrorist sympathizer.
He who shall
He
not be
would actually
named,
make
according
some
to Inky.
Well,
right,
of course
right.
he would. Of course he would not say, but he,
Right, Brick.
Wishcaster.
but he just
Wish,
does.
Come on, Brick, save us.
Wi-
Go ahead.
Wishcaster. Do you think the guy that said America deserved 9/11 is the kind of guy you want on like any part of a party
See,
trying to like
see,
get elected? Do you
Guy
think
who
this is the person we
see.
want in here, Witchcaster? There should be no
I
hand
don't
holding. There
want
should be no crossing the
brick,
aisle on this shit. This is
brick.
insane.
To be honest with
Yep.
you, I'm a
Hmm.
grown man. I don't want any Twitch streamer on my team. Like I really like these motherfuckers are crazy. So to be honest with you, like no, no. The answer is no. But to the extent that I
Uh-huh.
have to engage with them, I'm happy to do it. But no, I
I'm
feel
not gonna
like
like it. Okay.
he's almost my age and he acts like a child.
He does.
So
True.
no,
I'm
He
happy to
does
no.
act
engage
like a
with him
child.
to the point where I tell him to fuck off, please, because he is not a part of the American
It's
project.
yeah, it's kind of like well, hold on. So the illiberal things he talks about, maybe I could pet him on the head and say, "You've been online too long. Let me teach you how you get offline." And then you actually make real impact. Because I think he's a smooth speaker. He's a good looking dude. I think that there's a way in which
Damn
we
it.
could engage with him and bring him and start speaking about the things that he wants as long as they're not a liberal. Like the moment he does dumb shit like say China is like the
I'm gonna shock
example
his
we
dog.
should mold on to. I'm like
But that's the
It's just
problem. He is inherently an illiberal person, like just by his own
but
beliefs.
no,
Even
no,
from
he's
from his
just
own.
inherently young and dumb.
You said he was his
The
age. What are you
problem.
talking about? You were just saying about how he's basically your age.
No, I'm saying he's young. I'm
But
saying like
but
when
that's
he
the problem.
started streaming on Twitch, I believe it stopped his brain. Then COVID happened. Then he just continued to audience seek. So
Yeah.
I think his brain is
Uh,
I think he wants to break out of his prison cell. I
I,
believe that. I actually believe
no,
that about him.
I don't think you broadcast and even platform a Houthi pirate onto your stream and try to hide behind that and are just brain rotted. No, you are an ideologically captured tool, and I want not no part with someone like that.
I
Yeah.
mean, then you want no parts with a lot of people on Discord. Sorry, Sophie, I cut
No,
you off.
Wishcaster, I think you're absolutely right, but I think it's for a different reason. I think the grift is too strong. I think that Twitch money is too good. I don't see that there's a benefit for him to change or to alter his argument in any way, shape, or form. So I'm on this. If we're to ask the question, I would say no. I don't think we should work with PV, I don't think we should.
But Sophie.
Yeah.
I thought it was side chat. Icky, good one.
Oh my god, that's
Hey,
good. Get him,
Sophie,
Kaya.
I will say,
Oh,
What
I
the
was just.
fuck?
Can I comment on a thing about
Sophie,
PV real quick?
Go
Is
for
that
it,
okay?
Trev. We got a minute left. Go
I
ahead.
think it's clearly obvious the way PV now is functioning, the way they are addressing people online on Twitter, the way they engage with like someone like Destiny who helped them like do a lot of
Yeah.
door knockings and shit like a year and a
Right.
half ago. It was
Right.
no 2 years, almost 2 years ago. Like that was insanely good like coalition with the people of his audience helping Progressive Victory. And then what did he show for that? Doing like weird snarky comments on Twitter of like, oh yeah, like this person sucks, or like they actually helped them out tremendously.
Right.
And then
Right.
they just shit on someone who did a collab with them with that. Insane. Like the fact they're doing that kind of rhetoric, that kind of like negativity just shows like what kind of like coalition do they want to build? Clearly it isn't, because when you watch their PV thing, it's all just like, you know, as other people have said in the past, like just Israel Palestine only. They're not talking about stuff that Democrats want to vote for, care about, like healthcare or like education or like helping people with housing and stuff like that. A lot of that was just like pushed aside for like all these other talking points of just like
IP.
very anti-democratic. Yeah, anti-democratic, and it's just not great. I don't think that's a good
Right.
coalition.
well, Sophie, the only thing I will say is that I think he's recognized his error because he's getting older, and he's recognized his
And
error
he's
in his
losing his
ways. And
hair.
the only one point,
Bro.
the one thing I think he's recognized is that he wants to actually mainstream. He wants to actually
Mm.
talk to politicians, and he started to realize how. I mean, this internet fight just happened about him, and he started to realize like I actually do want to talk. So he yells at his stream like, "Why are y'all making me look like a terrorist?" Even though everything that he said before that was obviously it's just it's untenable. But now he started to get to the point where he's like, "Oh shoot, I'm grown now. I want to talk to
Yeah.
actual politicians doing actual work in the actual universe." So now I'm gonna have to moderate my positions. I feel like I've heard more of that from him, like yelling at his stream,
Well, have
saying like, "Oh, I
Well, he's only
didn't
doing
mean
that
that."
because he's pushing. Oh, sorry.
but have these
So
announced his past actions? Like I said, he platformed the
Right.
known Houthi
It,
pirate
it,
and
it's
all the other stuff.
it's not
You,
just that though, but it's like he doesn't even walk back the stuff that he did with Chorus and
Yep.
in like shit talking Chorus as like a dark money pack. Like
Mm.
this guy is wholly an unserious person. I don't think this person he's trying to talk with politicians, but like he's just not giving the oomph. Like what we did with our fundraiser, we made over $250,000 in less than 24 hours, and this motherfucker couldn't even get his stream, even though we know this guy fundraised like for a multi-day stream like like what was it, like around $700,000-800,000 for Palestine, couldn't even breach the like a six-figure mark for
True.
for PV. So it's
Right.
like sure maybe he wants to, but he's like a person with like I have like I can speak to this like I'm like an ADD person, like they when they just don't have the oomph or the want to do something, they just like sit down, and we eventually just become lazy, or we get subsumed with something that we're interested in his case it's just streaming and
Right.
gaining money and clout. That's it.
Right. Moving on to the next topic, but it's very similar. So, but Brick, if you could cycle out some people that haven't talked in a while. But yeah, next topic. It's very similar to this, so I'm sure most of you will come back up. But
Okay.
how should we advocate as political advocates? Wait, no, yeah. As political advocates, should we follow grand leaders' take on engaging tankies, i.e., only in non-friendly ways? I
yes.
think this is a big topic recently of how we engage with people left from us.
Mm. Well, maybe we
Or how we
bridge.
engage with tankies in general. Sorry.
Well, I'll throw
I'll
out
go.
a counter argument that kind of maybe bridges the last topic with this one.
Yeah.
I feel like in the general populace in America, like nobody knows who the fuck we are. Nobody, not that. I'm sure not that many people know who Destiny is. If you were to poll your average voter, or even Hassan, really. But unfortunately, I think that when it comes to the mainstream, I think that Hassan is more likely to be viewed as the voice of the left before Destiny would be. Um, and so I do see that given, the optics game, that there might be benefit in not necessarily working with Hassan or PV or people like that, but if there's some way to get them to kinda like Wishmaster was saying, like, to understand that their rhetoric is harming us or whatever the case is, I just think it's something to note that given that, your average voter is going to, like the whole Tim Miller conversation. Like, people who look at The Bulwark or who, are watching, Sam Cedar or whatever, they're gonna know who Hassan is before, you know, they're gonna understand that there's a more center left, I'd say a more rational, democratic, pro-liberal, sect out here trying to advance the cause of vote blue no matter who. But yeah, it's just something to think about as perhaps a counterpoint.
Okay. Sorry, yeah. It's a little bit off topic and shit, but we recently had a topic about interfacing with centrist types and stuff. Something that I should fucking rat Adam, fucking Ryan Zierfil, if any of you know him. He feels very strongly that you should basically try to get onto any topic or any kind of panel that you can
Mhm.
with any kind of like a centristy type person to advocate for our political stance and shit. So it's kind of like a similar topic of should we Destiny seems to have the take of only being non-friendly towards these people, and I don't know, as like political advocates, people like kind of tier below that, if we should hold that stance as well, or try to like be more friendly towards these people.
I might be wrong, but I don't think Destiny was about being completely unfriendly, but it was more about going onto their platform and knowing that they're insidiously like or trying to sneak into the party, like the Dem center
Mm.
left type, yeah,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
trying to curdle it from within. Yeah.
Okay.
Like just being aware of that fact. Not that you have to go in and immediately call them like, fucking
Team.
slurs. Yeah.
Get you.
But just saying like, oh, I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna agree on what we agree on to
Okay.
bring in their center left types that might still be persuadable, and then not let them persuade my audience farther left into that ideology where they say, maybe like the capitalist liberal system doesn't work for you. Yeah, we should tear it all down and start anew. Yeah, like it's that push pull, convince their persuadable audience while not letting them persuade yours in that kind of way. And
I
from
mean,
what
we
I
aren't we
understand.
aren't streamers. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole thing, right? We aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, are you a streamer? Sorry, am I disrespecting you right
No,
now?
no, no. I just
Okay.
randomly come in. Like this is my first time really.
Oh,
Go for it, Octavian.
welcome.
What's your take?
So,
Go ahead, Octavian.
like, are these people who are willing to knock doors? Are these people willing to donate money?
Mhm.
Are these people willing to do something for me? Right? Are they willing to work with me? These are the questions that I ask instead of, are they a leftist or are they a centrist? Right?
Mhm.
Because I don't care if they knock a door or they convince somebody else to vote Dem, right? Because you know what? I'm not. I'm not a streamer. I'm not convincing the masses. I am a random guy from the Midwest. Okay, that's the reason
Fair.
that
True.
I don't really care. Okay, this take doesn't matter if you're not a streamer. I'm not convincing 1,000 people to go vote differently. Well, hopefully I would be, but like like I'm not a streamer. I'm not convincing a bunch of people. I'm just going to do whatever on the random street. Okay. So this take doesn't apply to us. It just doesn't apply. It's irrelevant. Okay. Because I'm not a streamer. I'm not going on streams. Okay. So
Well,
that's
you're on
that's
one
the whole
right
thing.
now.
Well, I feel
True.
like
Okay.
Square
I
that
feel like
circle,
what
huh?
we I feel like we
Called
do
out
it
and
in a
roasted.
The
small
circle
way.
goes in the square hole.
Well, I feel
Of
like we
course,
do it in a small way in
they
our
all go in
local
the square hole
circles.
eventually. Okay, my friend. Yeah,
It's a good
any
point.
rebuttal for that?
Well, I think the reason why there's pushback against like, the streamer culture stuff is because like Dems want people who are aligned with their ideas of like these policies, like whether it be healthcare, whether it be for education, whether it be for like, like helping elderly, like stuff like that matter. They're like, hey, are you going to join our coalition? Are you going to speak for us? Are you going to be unified with us when it comes to the polling and voting? I feel like with Hassan's audience,
for him, and for the most part to people aligned with him and his values, is more so much less of like political action and more of like how you say just like advocacy and like preaching of like less of like actual like voting and stuff. It's more so of like it's hard to say it. I'm trying to phrase it out. It's just like they're not preaching for like policies that they would align with them. It's just more of like just I guess like as a
Yeah,
policy.
It's a
it's
stepping
ungrounded,
stone
it's
on the way to the
unserious. Yeah,
communist
it's like
empire.
a it's like a
Mono-issue.
political hobbyism. It's not
Yeah.
any like
Vibes.
real politic. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, but
It-
hold on. But
It's like
this
giving
doesn't
a kid
apply.
a Christmas list, and then they just put every fucking thing on the list. And
But
even though
what
you're
upsets
just
me
like,
the
all right, it's
Mm-hmm.
gotta be 3 things, like no more than 3,
But
please.
but what upsets me the most is just like that it's for them. It's like all or nothing on their specific candidates. If not, they will not preach for. Hey guys, I know we didn't get our candidate in. We'll go for Gavin Newsom or we'll go for this other candidate. They will just shut down and just be very anti against them. Come for them if they are going up against like a Republican or MAGA
Yeah.
candidate. I
We-
feel like
we
they
don't
will
even
not.
Yeah,
have
it's just
to-
like Sophie brought up. It's like
It just
it's
becomes
the vibes.
aggressive, that's
It's not political science. The complete opposite. Political vibes. It's its own like area of study that they have.
Yeah. Well,
Good for
it's not
you.
But
even
I feel
just
like I feel
vibes.
like
It's also
we should keep
it-
in mind. I feel like we should keep in mind that the Hassan leader
hold.
types
I don't-
do have
Lunas?
a
How do
ultimate
you say this?
goal, which is like
I need
the
mod in this
socialist.
goddamn chat.
Yeah,
Ulysses,
sorry about
go.
that.
No, we don't even have to go to like Gavin Newsom. We could just go back to like I said before with like previously. It's Kat Abu Ghazaleh. As soon as she fucking lost, fucking PV and like Hassan literally were like, "Oh, this is why Chicago is literally the America's most forgotten city." And it's like, okay, Jesus, like the Midwest, we may be forgotten and shit, but Jesus Christ, you don't need to be that fucking harsh. So it's like, yeah, no, these people aren't serious. These people are like hobbyists. In the case of like people like Hassan, these people are like financial hobbyists in which like this is their like job in which they make money off of this stuff.
You
They
know-
don't like when we're looking for like when I'm looking at Hassan. Generally, what I'm looking for is what can you do within your means. So for Hassan, he's a millionaire. He has like really nice cars, really nice clothes, really like basically he's got a bunch of fucking wealth, and he comes from fucking wealth. So what can he do? He shouldn't just be saying I'm gonna toss like a couple $100,000 to the DSA. He should be like putting his money where his mouth is. Maybe he collectivizes and takes over like a McDonald's franchise and turns it into like a co-op. Maybe he goes off and does what like Destiny is doing and creates like an entire like fundraising arm for like PV, or he goes off and he like creates a massive like canvassing opportunity. He says he does these things, but I haven't like seen him like openly advocate or even like create his own thing from the ground up, like one would expect with his kind of wealth and his influence.
Well,
Okay,
I,
Yeah, wait.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Go ahead,
Sorry, go for
Joshua,
it.
could you, I actually had a question for you. Could you reread the statement again for the question for this
Yeah, one
topic?
second. I still have it. Let's go. As political advocates, should we follow grand leaders' take on engaging tankies, i.e., only in non-friendly ways?
So I'm not understanding something that's like been going on in this convo. Like, where in that does that like say that we have to engage with all tankies in that statement, right? Because I keep hearing like, oh, we shouldn't engage with Hassan, we shouldn't engage with whichever. I don't really care. Okay. Yes. Okay. We don't engage with Hassan, but is he the only tanky that's in the world? Okay. Because it seems like you're just like, oh, Hassan doesn't do anything. Hassan doesn't do this. Hassan doesn't do that. Maybe go have the question about should we engage with Hassan instead of should we engage with tankies, right? Because maybe there's a tanky that does things. Maybe there's a tanky that does things that are positive, right? Whereas if you say Hassan is
The good
bad, well then
I
that's,
feel like
well,
tank
yeah.
that
Wait,
could-
hold on. Do you think there are no tankies in the world that do positive things?
Zero.
no, that's
Zero-
there's
zero
some good
tankies in the
positives,
world that do
but I would say
positive
there's
things.
also oh god, I would just say like I feel like there's also like the tankies who I've seen like how do I say this? They tend to like co-opt like the pro-Pally people, and they will disrupt like democratic rallies and like speeches for them. They will just go in there and be very disruptive. They're not doing it to Republican side; they're doing it mainly to the Dem side. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
are you guys aligned with us or not? Like, and you're not hearing them. Like, they're not like listening or having conversations like, hey, let's come to like a middle ground. They're not. They want you to make a mile dash towards them, and for them, they just take one step forward. Like, it's
real
just
quick,
insane.
real quick. Somebody define tanky. To me, I hear tanky and I think just a super far left socialist who wants to tear
Tanky
the
is-
whole situation down or whatever. But like,
Probably closer to like
It's like
authoritarian
a-
communism.
It's more
to be
like
honest.
vanguardism, like the vanguard wing of the Communist Party that basically wants to,
One of-
like, through authoritative means, take
A violent
over and
overthrow.
manage, basically
Yeah.
like that, and manage that new system through force.
As a
Any greater
conservative, I
force.
kind of see it like like what I'm afraid of is someone who's trying to enforce an equity of outcome with the power of the state.
Well, that should be like
I mean,
like when you asked your question, like Octavian, about like, well, is there a tanky that does good things? It's like, I mean, probably there's some alignment with like the general liberal view of Democrats now, but they're fundamentally illiberal, right?
Yep.
So if we're using tanky in the broad sense of like, well, I don't know, like a libertarian socialist, maybe, but if we're using it in the stricter sense, which I think we should, which is like the authoritative, like communist version,
Mm-hmm.
then no, I don't think we should align with those people. I think there's like, they have antithetical views to like liberal views.
Octavian, what's your response?
Thanks, Inky.
well, even if they do have antithetical views, right? Just as a tanky will use me to go to their line, right? I can also use a tanky, right? We can mutually abuse each other, I guess, in this I guess
The
this would be
circle.
like a toxic relationship
Is it
relationship
like
we're
a
having
purity
here.
That's
test?
snake.
So like no,
But it's
hold on. If you think about it, hold on. Let me say this for a minute. Like if you think about it, right? The tankies, right, are trying to use us in their ways to get to where they're going, right? And we're saying we're going the same way. But what if instead we use their methods against us, right? So we then now use the tankies, right, to do what we want to do, right? So just as if you remember, for example, when Hassan went to the DNC, I know I didn't really want to talk about Hassan, but those people also used the fact that Hassan left the protest and the protest didn't have enough people for the Democrats to say, yeah, the Palestinian protests here were like really small and nobody went to them and they were cringe, right?
I feel
And
like
so
that's a
just
good
like they,
point because
What
the
do you mean by
reason why
use?
we oh sorry, can I just say a little something?
Yeah, go for
I
it.
think that's a really good reason. Like I think that's why we focus on influencers because they gather a large crowd around them.
Mm.
If we were gonna look for good tankies, yeah, to convince individually, that might take a long time and not be as effective. Yeah. But that's why we look for creators and then think about how to engage with those creators. Yeah. And I think that's why Hassan is one of the major topics because behind him is a huge crowd of potential good tankies. Yeah. Where we then you start discussing why and how you want to interact with them. Yeah. So if you go on, like I said, that's a good point. If you want to turn the coin on the other way, yeah, and go on their streams and then say, yes, we agree on these things. We actually do. You've heard these things of
Mm-hmm.
how Dems are against Medicare for all, or they're against living wage, or against this, or they don't want to move the system forward at all for you. Yeah? Actually, what you've been hearing is wrong. Yeah. We actually do. Like we actually do agree on all these things. And I don't know where you've been hearing this all the while they're sitting in the corner going like, well, they've been the ones saying it, yeah. But you're now going on their show and saying, no, no, no. Actually, we agree on all these fundamental principles, yeah. The only thing we're saying is that this is effective politics, yeah. You're not gonna run a super socialist tanky person in Montana or
Yeah,
whatever
that's
X,
I,
coming in for a second.
exactly,
Go
yeah.
for
I
Trump.
So
don't
that's
really think that's where the disagreement is between like liberals and lefties. I think like the
well,
disagreements come out when you ask like a lefty like, well, what should Biden have done about Joe Manchin? And they say things like he should have threatened his family.
geez.
yeah,
That's
that's crazy.
that's
It's
like
like
the
fucking
fundamental illiberal stuff that I'm talking about, where
one
it's
hundred
like,
percent.
and,
But I
and
think
looping it back to what Octavian said about
But
where
I
you
but
use
I feel
these
like but I
people,
feel like how they said
but
those are not
looping it
really the
looping it
tankies
back
we're looking for.
looping it
Yeah.
back to what Octavian said about using these
Sick.
people.
Yeah.
When you say use, like what I imagine there is you say things to these people in order to secure their vote and bring them into your coalition. But if these people have like a fundamental viewpoint that is antithetical to yours, you can maybe do that for an election cycle or two. But at some point, they're going to start saying, "Well, why aren't you threatening Joe Manchin's family?" That's you. You said you're like me. You said you believe the things I do. And
But
if you and
mhm.
so yeah, maybe you can do this for an election cycle. And if
Mhm.
like we say something like Trump and his fascist like coalition is like an existential thing, and we need to do anything possible in order to get them out of power, maybe there's an argument to be made there. But in terms of like long-term political coalition building, this is not a
Shit.
recipe for it. This is something
But
that we are just kicking the can down the river on.
see.
When do we do the infighting in our coalition?
But I feel like
well,
those
yeah,
would be
that we should do the
fundamentally,
infighting.
definitionally the ones that you don't reach because they're crazy. Yeah.
Then
They're the
I
crazy
don't
ones.
think they're tankies then if they don't believe those things.
All right.
Like they're just in a
Mm.
different category.
Interesting.
We'll do another
Okay, I see what you're
15
saying.
minutes on this. This has been a fun topic.
What were you gonna say, Kate?
That'll be the last tonight. Join us next week.
No, stink. Like, okay, do you think that you would have infighting with like somebody who is like a bulwark conservative, or may not now bulwark conservatives? Bulwark conservatives probably some of them are probably left of me, but like like let's say somebody who's like an anti-Trump person, that's like in their 40s because he's like, I don't know, he looks cringe on the international stage or something, right? This person is also, we're gonna have to fight like 2 elections down the line because they're gonna be like, well, why aren't you trying to imprison the trans people for like trying to trans our kids, right? This is the same type of question you're gonna have, but right now we have to get these people in line or else we lose the next election, right? Because we just lost the
But
last one on the same shit.
but this is like those people are also in like the fundamentally liberal camp. Like they obviously just don't care about like trans rights or anything. If we are like building a coalition of like, well, like we're
They're
building this
fundamentally
like an
anti like my
individual
friends.
right
They want
like
like my friends thing.
thing. Yeah, but I mean I wouldn't think like a Bulwark viewer is necessarily that kind of person.
Well,
To
yeah,
be
no,
honest.
but like you understand what I'm saying. It's more like the person, not. Probably, sorry, it would probably be more like a Lincoln. I mean, I'm not. I'm not trying to like. I shouldn't do this, but like
I
somebody
don't
who's
even know
like
if there is like
specifically
a never
anti-trans, but
Trumper
like
who's like, I hate trans people so much I want them in prison, to be honest. I think those people are like solidly in the Trump is doing a good
Mm.
thing group.
well, maybe not right now, post Iran, but because there's a lot of people like in the Trump camp who've left, but I'm not really sure if they're going to vote for anybody. Um, Yeah, I would just say like let's presume this like centrist that like wants ICE funding and like hates immigration or something, or thinks that like Trump is like fucking up the economy, right? There's a lot of like econ voters, right? Just that person is also going to like hate immigrants or like have other things that I'm going to say is like fundamentally like wrong as views or like want to you know, you and I talked about this before, Stink, of like defunding US aid, right? Which is like a terrible thing that Trump has done, but a lot of these people would be for that, right? A lot of people would be for like these things that we like. Hopefully, everybody at the table right now would say that like are literally killing a bunch of people, right? And I can't be like, oh, like we got to kick everybody out for purity testing because then I just lose the next election again.
Well,
Just
I
as
think
just
it
as if I
just
kick out the tanky, I'll lose the next election
like
again.
it just becomes a discussion of like, well, what's the easier group to like either A, we do have to like make some concessions to whatever group we're trying to take in, and then it's a discussion of which concessions are easier to do politically and which are like the least like harm down the line.
Well,
Or
what if you
B,
don't
it's
concede
like, well,
anything?
B, it's
You should
which
never
group
concede.
which
That's how
group
you
do we
always win.
think
Okay, you just double down. That's what Trump
well,
does. Okay, that's how you win the game, boy. You just never
or
concede.
or
Facts.
B, it's which group do we think is like easier to actually sway and convince that some of the things they currently believe are just like not the right things. And like honestly, with the Never Trump group that have shifted, I think largely those are people who like can have their minds change fairly easily. And for the most part, they're
I think
just
most
like
tank. Okay,
like
do you
I
think
think
there's
Never Trump people are probably like the thing that like if I imagine that person, the thing that I think they're probably most conservative on is something like immigration. And I think if you spoke to them in terms of like economic benefit, you could capture them and sway them towards like a more liberal point of view. Whereas with
I
like
feel
the
the same
tanky person,
way.
I don't know where to fucking start with those people.
well,
Freedom
Those
is
you
never
people
an
are a
start
lot.
with the fact
thing,
that most
though.
of aren't most tankies
Oh,
like young people? Wouldn't we agree with
College
that, or are
age,
you wrong,
kind of.
or no?
they're college
I mean,
grad
you
Yeah,
consider
people.
Hassan
probably.
Young, okay?
They're captured by Hassan.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, they're groomed as children, right?
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, in an
That's
interesting
an
way,
odd
sure.
I mean,
wording, but
there's
kinda,
some
yeah.
Wait, is there a
some
problem with
grown
what I
ass
said there?
people in
Is
those
there a
groups
problem?
too.
The
Is there a
brains
problem
are
with what I said?
still
Is everybody have a problem?
developing. There's some facts in there.
Keep
True,
going.
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Like so, these people. Well, I would say the same thing for MAGA people. So this is not like a one way street. But like,
Hmm.
if somebody is like still young or still like developing their ideas, right? This is somebody who also could be like drastically changing their point of view, right? If somebody's a tanky, a lot of times they're just like getting like the same point of view and the same people. If you're close to them, just as if you're close to somebody who is like somebody who's
Wait,
like an anti-Trumper, you're going to be able to convince them the same way.
I'm
I
gonna
feel
step
like
here
with
as mod.
Azan's
One
audience,
second,
though,
one second,
that's
one second,
not the same
one
connection.
second. Hold. I'm gonna step here as mod. Does tanky is like the same as someone that's like communist? Like tanky for me is someone that like believes in like the
No.
violent overthrow of like the capitalist
Yeah,
system.
no, this is a very this is a very specific type of person.
Okay.
It's like yeah.
I think that's different than someone's like, oh, this is my first time. I'm learning about like different economies. I learned about
I'm
communists
not.
or some shit.
Yeah,
They're like,
I agree. I don't
I'm a
think this is that
tanky.
type
I
of
want the
person.
violent overthrow of the communist class. And
I just feel like if you
that's
asked
not.
a typical tanky or like people who are like devout Hassan watchers, if you ask them, do you like Democrats? They'll say no. They'll say they are just as bad as Republicans. They
Mhm.
would literally message that every time. I think there's like a big distinction when we say people who watch Hassan versus people who are Hassan fans who watch them dedicated. Like if someone who's like casually watching them on Twitch or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, he makes some good points about like the poor people, helping them out. Do we need some unity and stuff like that? But then if
Yeah.
you watch him more and more, he talks about like a lot of like inaction of like, hey, unless these people are aligned with the social sock dems, whatever, dem socks, whatever, under like the red rose,
Mhm.
they are not aligned with our party. They are not one of us. They need to be ousted. Like they will only vote for people who are like the AOCs or Bernies or Mandanis. If it's not a part of that, they are just like a either APAC shill or someone who's just bought out by the deep money, whatever, money bag, whatever. They will just not make those concessions. And I feel like I said earlier, that you have to make a whole dash just to make a concession to them. But for them, it's just all or nothing, and they hold the vote hostage so hard. It is just so difficult to get them to your side.
Yeah, I'll throw it over to
Okay,
this
is
random
that
person.
true for? Okay,
Go for it.
Brad, do you
Go
think
for
that's
it.
true for every tanky that you're going to interact with? This
No, but
is
for
meant
the
to be like a trick
Hassan,
question. It's meant to.
no,
meant to
but for the Hassan audience, for the people who are dedicated watchers that Destiny says that he's against, absolutely. For people who are dedicated Hassan fans, they will be anti-Democrat.
Yeah,
I feel
wait,
like
hold on.
no one is unreachable. Like it reminds me of that one person, the black guy that goes by convincing KKK members to give up their
Yeah, yeah,
hoods. Yeah,
that's a great guy.
like a
Mhm.
lot of times it's like no one's unreachable, but it just is a matter of like how much energy to
Yeah.
spend per person.
No,
Yeah,
there are some
Right.
people that
and
are there are
then
some
That's
people
the
that are
question.
unreachable. That's not true.
Yeah, I think that's
but
what Steven's
that
preaching
the,
against. But
the whole thing, right, is more that like when we put a blanket on people of like, oh, like you can't interact with any of these people, then they're never going to interact with you anyways because you're now saying like, oh, this group you're part of is like is antithetical to me or antithetical to what I'm doing. Where
Okay.
some of them can be helpful, right?
well, I mean,
Like
if
if
you
some can
look
be
at the
helpful, but I feel
core of
like
what
there's
that
a
person
fear
is
of them.
thinking, like
It
they
sounds like
usually
we've
believe that
argued the
their system is
principles,
going to
so maybe we
be.
could
They
think
usually
about
believe
like
that that system
actual.
Too many
is going
people
to be the
talking.
best for most people. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you just show them like, hey, look, this system would actually not be good for those people in that kind of way. Yeah. Like if you find what their
Yeah.
core idea is for why they believe what they believe, then you can kind of argue on that core. Because a lot of times, sometimes we are talking too idealistically, like too nebulous. Yeah. For people to get down on.
Yeah.
Whenever like those young, really radical people who are like Hassan viewers, you know, those socialists burn the system down,
Oh, no.
they're like disillusioned, right? So they're like, the whole system doesn't help me. Fuck me. The whole system doesn't give a fuck about me. So fuck the whole system, man. They're like they're like the
Yeah.
kids on like fucking My
That's a big
Hero
orgy right
Academia.
there.
That one guy who wants to destroy the world, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think the
Random
yeah,
person.
I think the fear for some
Okay.
people, I'll myself includes that if
Bold.
they are under party, I think there's a fear that I
Trav,
don't want to
Trav.
say it, but they
1 second.
might co-opt it into their ideals that aren't necessarily aligned with most Democrats. I think that's a
Trav.
fear for some
Trav, can I
people.
get you?
But yeah.
Hold 1
sorry,
second. We have 2 new people. Throw it over to a random person, and then North after that. So random person.
Oh my god. Sorry. I just wanted to also add that I feel like there's something to be said about mental health. Like very clearly, I feel
Okay.
like throughout this debate,
Okay,
we should
go
not
for it.
forget that tankies usually, in my opinion, are very much, in my experience at least, they're very much misguided, and they
Mhm.
have usually some sort of mental health thing, or I don't know, just very much misguided, don't know what the fuck they're doing, fucked it, their life is like fucked them in the ass, all that jazz.
There's a lot of sexual
Yeah.
innuendos that people are having this conversation. Maybe we need to
Okay.
analyze that.
North, please bring us back to our
True.
good
So they're like
Chinese
our
or Minecraft
they're
Christian
like the
server.
left's
North,
version
please.
of red
my
pilled
Okay,
people.
yeah.
So they're like the
Okay.
left's version of the red pilled, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I
I got
completely
you.
yeah.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
I
people
agree.
are misunderstanding what Steven and specifically Ryan Getty were talking about. I don't think they were necessarily saying, "Oh, we need to." I think it's agreed that capturing Hassan, maybe like his core audience, I guess, is like unachievable. What they want to do is capture like the fringe elements. And I think that is I think it's possible for Democrats to capture the fringe elements, but that can never happen directly working with Hassan. Like they want the audience of Hassan, but not Hassan himself.
Mhm.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And here,
I'm not
and
ever
here,
talking to
here,
Hassan. Wait, the question originally was never like you talking to Hassan. It was you're talking
Yeah.
to a tanky.
Yes.
well, hold on. The issue is though is like these people generally what they'll do is they basically do what you'd see other cults do. They just isolate themselves and they don't talk to anybody, and it's really hard to get to those people. Like the only way you're going to be able to do that is if like you have some sort of like community aid, and those people
Mm.
happen to go out to the community aid, and then you can interact with those people individually. It's not like how like Destiny was able to like communicate with people before, like Nick Fuentes, who would literally go on his stream just and he would argue with him just because, and he would be able to leak that audience. But with Hassan or any other tanky, like even an influential tanky, those people will generally self-isolate and just won't allow you to talk to their community. It's really hard to
As
get.
Random was
Yeah,
saying,
sure,
they
but that's
have
part of Hassan's
mental health
strategy, though.
issues.
Like, if
One at a
Hassan is
time.
ever going to be
That's
appearing
not even
on another
Hassan though.
platform, or I guess, yeah. Sorry, I'm a little, I guess, Hassan brain broken right now.
I
Um,
guess.
You have
yeah,
Hassan derangement
but
syndrome, my friend.
Hassan
yeah,
derangement
I
syndrome.
do have Hassan derangement syndrome.
I mean, you are in the Destiny Discord, so
Yeah.
welcome to therapy, brother.
I'm so. There is a thing that you notice when it comes to, I'll just say, tanky content creators, in which they will, when they're trying to engage with the other side, they will try to expose their audience to the other side as little as possible, and then get themselves out there as much as they can to bring people in. It's like an unbalanced equation. They want to be like an atom where they're gaining as many electrons as possible.
Well, hold on. There's a 1-to-1 with the Republican side, and that was Charlie
A very
Kirk.
negative
Because
atom.
Charlie Kirk would literally go out and talk to college kids, and really wouldn't necessarily interact with anybody else unless he knew he could like dunk on them. So like he would talk with maybe like Cenk Uygur or maybe Hassan Piker, but he wouldn't go after like people like maybe like Vosh or well, he did Vosh, but he wouldn't do like Destiny or anybody else who's like very affluent like IRI.
And you know what? I
well-known.
think you're correct. Especially because the way that Charlie Kirk gained his audience was through like his political talk. Like I don't think Hassan gained his audience because he was like debating well with people. He gained it because he's a lefty on Twitch, and Twitch is like the biggest.
I
streaming
think
platform.
it's because he's hot. That's why I follow Hassan personally.
Well,
okay?
true.
Give you some of that.
The ultimate
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, Hassan is not gaining his audience through, oh my gosh, I'm gonna dunk on this like stupid liberal or the stupid conservative on my platform. No, he actively avoids, his goal is to conserve his audience politically as much as possible and engage with adversarial politics as little as possible. Unlike someone like Charlie Kirk, who will actually engage with like, I guess, the lowest level in order to get their dubs.
I think
So
we
I do
should
think there
listen
is
to
like a
like what
difference
Hassan
there.
says. I think we should listen to what like Hassan says himself. Like, didn't he go on that one podcast with the other two people who were like, he was like saying that he's the funnel. Yeah, he's the one that like persuades. You know, he's the easy access into the deeper rabbit hole. Yeah,
Trigonometry.
And that,
yeah.
And that's part of it. It's he's not going to expose himself to adversarial ideas, but if he ever does, like if he ever talks to, let's say, like Ro Khanna, for example, I don't know how often, or maybe he's on. Oh, the Progressive Victory thing. That's perfect. Hassan didn't stream the Progressive Victory thing, did he?
He
Did he?
didn't.
Yeah.
You know what?
I
One
don't
second.
think he did. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll correct you.
And there is a reason for that. It's because he's wanting the one-way funnel. He wants the exposure of people coming to his audience, but he doesn't want his audience to be exposed to anything else.
All right.
And you kind of have to
Randomness-
understand that
random-
when you're engaging with like
North.
tankies.
1 second. Random, please bring us back off of this topic from Hassan, okay? We need, the topic was not about Hassan, but somehow we went right back to him, okay? Please, Random.
He's the
Please.
I'm sorry.
Did you hear me now, Random? Please.
Oh, it's so difficult
Let
not
me
to
bring
talk
some
about him
sanity
ass.
into this
Yes.
conversation.
That's his
So
power.
we're talking about tankies. We're not talking about Hassan. And
Oh, yeah,
honestly,
sorry.
okay.
We are talking about tankies, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So in my opinion, if we're talking about like the average college person tanky, literally they're just mind fucked. That is it. Every single time I've spoken to any of them, they always have like a very tragic backstory. They're very sad. They have a lot of other issues, which I feel that a lot of like the left, neither the left nor the right gives an appropriate space for them to heal in a way.
Okay.
While the tankies do, because they survive and thrive on emotionally charged rhetoric every single time.
Okay.
At least that's my
Okay, yeah.
opinion. Yeah, so that's what I think is happening here. I think we should engage with the tankies because these people don't necessarily look for, they're not attached to the political ideology of it all, at least the ones I've interacted with. Rather, they're attached to the emotional benefit this kind of belief brings to them and the solution this might bring to their life. If we can provide better solutions, then I think we could be able to engage with them. But that's just my opinion.
I agree
That's
with
fair.
you because
I think that's a good place to wrap it there.
I think she's
okay?
making
You know what?
I think she's making
Wait,
a really
hold
good
on,
point.
hold on.
The only thing is,
We got
oh,
20
sorry.
seconds, Ulysses. We can't do a fucking.
No. Give me 20. Give me the 20 seconds.
Okay, got 15. Go.
Listen, I think that is true. Like the black guy going to the KKK. As long as there's like good exposure, and as long as there's like a good like precedent to set that convinces those people really well of like that you're wrong, like they will come to us, and that's fine. So.
You're wrong. True. Okay.
This
Well, thank
is
you.
why
I think it's a good
I-
place to wrap it.
Okay.
Well,
Alright.
I have to
this is what makes
No,
it so
no.
difficult online.
No,
no,
can
no,
I
no, no,
Can I say
very quick,
one
very
last
quick,
thing
very
first?
quick.
Bro, this guy trolled in the
shoot him.
first half. Can we
Who
not
are,
listen to
who are
him for the
mods?
next
Mods,
two?
get them. Get them
No,
all.
no, fuck me.
Take
Don't
them
kill
outside.
me,
No,
please.
it's okay.
No,
Oh,
kill
keep
them.
me.
Yeah.
Take them
Keep
up
me.
back.
Shut
Well,
up. Let Retro
Up against the
finish
wall.
this. We're done.
Well,
Move on.
just to put a pin on some of this, like it sounds to me, then I think it, like I love what Random is saying, and and everybody else who's kind of given the Daryl Dixon, um, is it Daryl Dixon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Daryl Dixon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but everybody giving that sort of metaphor, I think you're right. But somebody else mentioned that it's also a balance of your time investment versus um the impact that it could potentially have. And so I think when it comes to individuals, it's worth that effort, and I think maybe that's what we just try to keep in mind when we do our door knocking, when we do our canvassing and phone banking and stuff, is
Doo-doo.
that if we when we do, but when we
Sorry.
do get with those
I ain't
people, that keep in mind that, having that one-on-one conversation can bring them back when we do respect that, they have valid reasons for thinking the things that they think. But I think maybe on a larger perspective, when we're going back to the organizational, um collaborative efforts and whatnot, I think we should put a litmus test up. I think we should absolutely say, okay, when we look at like PV progressives, people like Hassan, they were so pro the cat Abalu whatever person. She didn't get in, right? Daniel Biss won over her. So now when that actual election comes up, not just the primary, will they support Daniel Biss? Are we gonna
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the same fucking energy for Cat What's Her Face for Daniel Biss? And so I think that could be a litmus test to say, okay, like, are you genuinely trying to help advance the cause of liberalism, help democracy, Democrats, or are you just fucking out here on vibes, like your boy said? But yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my final thought. Go ahead, Retro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll wrap it here. But I actually really did like Random's last little bit there because I think it is something. I think it's actually a really good critique of our side of the emotional rhetoric, where I feel like we go too hard on like the logic and like sort of get a little too lost in sauce in there. But yeah, that's it for this debate night. Having lots of fun. Fucking, I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. But yeah, well,
Same bat channel.
that's a wrap.
Well, before we go, Ulysses, you want to throw one more
Oh yeah,
time
go
to
for it.
the
Ulysses,
CTA
do our
for
ad. Do our
everybody?
ad read.
Call
Brought to
to
you by
action.
Ulysses.
Yes, brought to you
Um,
by Ulysses. Not the like I am the advertisement. I am the product. Okay.
he is the
No,
product.
true. So no. So basically, guys, if you like what you're doing, what we're doing here, we are digital ground game, and what we are is we are canvassing, but we're also phone banking. We're basically we're master of we're knower of all, almost master of none right now. We're fairly brand new, like canvassing arm. We are founded through streamers. In this case, it was through Destiny in 2020, and now we've actually like created an organization, and now we are a 501c4. And we just made over $250,000 and counting. By the way, if you guys really want to, that fundraiser is still up, and there is one more mile mark,
Yes.
and that is the $300,000 one. And if you get that, you get I think it was the fourth draft of the Jan 6 thing that Destiny kept talking about, which is like a really big meme around here. But yeah, if you guys really want to, we can post the links in descriptions. Please come out. Please support us. We are going to be doing a phone banking for California. If you are not in California, that is okay. You don't even have to be in the United States in order to phone bank in the United States. I phone banked in Wisconsin as a Wisconsinite for Wisconsinites, and we had somebody from London, England, come out and phone bank for Wisconsinites, which was like super amazing to see. So like you don't even have to be in America. You can be outside of the country. Don't even have to be in the state. Just get out there and do that. If you want to know any more information, in our Discord, in the DGG Paul, is like all the information you need to know. There's the link to the mobilization, the application that you need to do. You'll get like a Zoom link. You'll join it. They'll train you. They'll give you like a script that you can read off, or you can try and like off the riff it, as long as you're charismatic enough, of course, and shit like that. Because this stuff actually matters. The entire reason why, and I will actually give a good example of this. The reason why this is very important and why we do this stuff and how this actually does a good impact was Wisconsin's Supreme Court race there was a lot of people phone banking for the Wisconsin Dems. And that's how we got a 60-40 split, something that we haven't seen in over 3 decades, or at the very least 3 decades, which is a very fucking long time. And even then, I think at that point, I think that was a Republican that won that because it was during the Bush election, if I not to be mistaken, in 2000. So please, 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 everybody get out and do what you can. If you're in DGG Paul, this is a good chance for you to be like, yeah, I want to be able to commit to action. Now I'm actually giving you guys an opportunity to go out and do political action. So
Yeah.
thank you guys
Thank
so much
you. Thanks,
from
Ulysses.
from from the bottom of my heart, from everybody here. We're happy to have you. Peace.
All right. Bye bye.
As your steps descend, feeling distant trance, coming to the end. As your steps descend.